Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name's Nicole and this is Dusty Book Sniffers, and today we are here for the start of a reading vlog, so let's get started. Good evening everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for taking some time out of your day and spending it with me while I prattle on about the books that I have read. This is, as I said in the intro, a reading vlog, and yeah, it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag of a reading vlog because I have a lot going on in the month of August. Not only is it my birthday month, and but I also have for my birthday month a lovely little present from Khrissy. She has picked all of my TBR for the month, and I have also picked hers. Now you'll find Khrissy over on Khrissy under Stitches and Reads over on Instagram, or you will find her in the comments here on my sprints and stuff like that. I also have Discord members pick, group reads and buddy reads and stuff that are happening. So one of those buddy reads is also from Khrissy's pick, so that's why it's going to be included in here. And I also am participating in the Amazing Readathon. I was looking at another readathon, but I decided not to do that because it wasn't really my cup of tea. But anyway, I landed on the Amazing Readathon. Go Team Blue. Alright, so I will say just from the get-go, I started, because it was also used as a bingo pick, I started with Pearl in a Cage by Joy Denton, and so subsequently I'm not going to talk about this in this vlog. I have read it and I have finished it. I'm not going to talk too much about it in this vlog. Actually, I'm not going to talk about it all except to tell you what's happening with it. I have decided, after halfway getting through this book, this is the beginning of the Woody Creek series, after halfway getting through, I decided, and talking with Khrissy as well, that some of her other books are really good as well, and she's got some standalone stuff. So I am going to do this as a Meet the Author. So know that I did read this in August. I started it on the 31st of July, and I finished it by the 1st of August. I finished this. Did I finish this on the 1st of August? Did I read it all in one hit? I'm just trying to think now. No, I started it on the Sunday, which was the 30th of July, and I finished it at the morning of the 1st of August. So, yes. So, I will talk more about this book and what I thought about it in Meet the Author. I'm not sure when that is going to drop on the channel because I still have to read a couple more books of her and I have to source them. The Woody Creek series is on BorrowBox, so I can continue on with that. And Khrissy said that she had a spare copy of the second book in the series, so she's going to send that up to me, which is great. And I'm going to the markets at the time of filming this. I'm going to the markets on Saturday, so I am looking forward to seeing what books I can get from Bob the Bookerer. Alright, so let me just say that most of these books will be referring to the Amazing Readathon and or Khrissy's pick or the Discord pick, okay? So that's what this is going to be, and I may have to break it up into two because I have a lot of books to get through this month, and there may be some extras thrown in for the Amazing Readathon. The prompt for the Amazing Readathon has dropped, and I have decided to go with The Murder of Mr. Wickham. The first prompt was we were traveling to New York, and so we had to read a book from one of the 5 large publishing houses and or from an imprint from them. So this is published by Vintage Books. It's been put out into the world by Vintage Books, but it is part of Penguin Random House, and it's also blue, so I can use it I get bonus points because it's got a blue cover. Alright, so this book is set in, I believe, I did read the author's note, which was at the beginning. So this is set in 1820. There is some language that the author explains that she uses in this. It's not meant to be a derogatory term. It is used as it was in the day to describe travellers, and that word is gypsy. I don't know if there's anything else in the book that I should be aware about or anything like that, because that's all I have read is the author's note. This is set in at the Knightleys, throwing a summer party, a house party, and it is going to be lasting a month. And obviously Mr. Wickham turns up and he's knocked off. So then the sleuthing team of Miss Tilney, Juliet Tilney, and Jonathan Darcy, they join forces and they are trying to work out who the killer is before some innocent bystander is accused of it and you know, taken off to jail and all the rest of it. So I don't know much more than that, except that all the characters that are in the books, this book, I know that there are 2, are set around Jane Austen books characters. So yeah, so we've got all that sort of stuff. And in the beginning, in the author's note, there is a little bit of a timeline and stuff, and where she got her inspiration from and all that sort of stuff. And I also noticed in the front of this book, there is quite a lengthy list of books that Claudia Gray has written. So if I end up really liking this and her style of writing, I might have to go and visit a few of her other books. Okay, so I have just got to chapter 7, and I must say, I am thoroughly enjoying myself already. Like, it's just bringing a smile to my face. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I cannot wait to get further in. We've had everybody sort of turned up and all that sort of stuff, and they're all basically, from what I can tell so far, they sort of know of each other. Some have met before, some haven't. These are the house guests, but the odd one out is Juliet Tilney. She doesn't have her parents there, so she has gone to the Knightleys and she's a house guest with them, and she has been brought there to meet Jonathan, and he's got some quirky little things about him and that I'm already loving. So I'm looking forward to seeing how his character develops and all that sort of stuff. So you'll get all of my thoughts on that in the wrap up, but I'm going to keep reading for now. I just wanted to check in, say I'm absolutely loving it. I'm loving the dynamics of all the characters and all that sort of stuff. I guess because in a way they are familiar to me, these characters, because we've read about these characters and the couplings before in the previous Jane Austen books. All right, I am back for another check-in. I am way past halfway mark. I'm up to page, well, I just lost my page. Where was it? 230 I'm up to. So yeah, so I just thought I'd stop here because I didn't realise. I was just reading along, listening along, and then realised that I was up to, you know, well past. So that is into chapter 15 that I'm into. All right, so I've got so much to say about this book, and I've been putting little tidbits over into the Discord and whatnot when I remember to do it, and just as things come to my mind. So basically, I'm reading along. As I said, I'm up to 230, and I find myself thinking back, like I'm in the moment, but then I'm like, hang on a sec, this happened, that happened. And I love that when a mystery can do that, a murder mystery can do that. Like, not all of them do that. Like, while they're pretty much the same sort of, you know, same sort of thing that you're reading. You know that there's a murder, there's a mystery behind it. You've got some sleuths that are going to try and work it out, whether it be police or amateur sleuths or whatever. This one, however, as I'm reading along, I am actually finding myself, I'm going back to thinking back to what I've already read in previous chapters instead of keeping on moving through the story. So I love that fact that that I am made to think back, and I've stopped and I've thought, hang on a second, so this has happened, that's happened, and I'm trying to put it together. For me, that is an amazing story. That is a storyteller that is actually got me so ingrained in the story that I feel like I'm part of the story, that I'm thinking back and trying to put the pieces together along with Juliet and Jonathan. Their dynamics is so cute. I just love it. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's a fabulous dynamic. He's very well-to-do and follows social protocol and all that sort of stuff, but you find out why he's like that and why he does things, and the way she has just accepted that is the way he is. You know, she's had her moments where she's thinking, and I love the internal dialogue that we're getting and how it's set up in the book. Let me see if I can find it. So when there's some internal dialogue, it is actually italics, and so it may, you know that they're just thinking that, they're not saying that to one another. It's very distinguishable as you're going along. Words today, obviously. Yeah, so basically, and I love the language that's in it. I don't like. I have been reading this without the audio as well, and I don't feel like it is too flowery or anything like that, but it is very atmospheric. The author is pulling you into the story, and she's very descriptive in her, not overly descriptive either. So when I say that, some people can go, oh great, someone that describes everything from the little leaf that's on the floor. No, she's not like that at all. She's descriptive and just enough to have that imagery come to your mind, but without being overly descriptive. And I get when people go, oh, descriptive, and they roll their eyes, because I'm not one for heaps of description either. I have a very good visualization of a scene and stuff like that, and I usually add my own things into it to complete the scene anyway, so I don't need a lot of explanation. But she gives you enough explanation that you just feel like you're so right there standing with all these people, you know, and whatnot. And I even like the guise of the he's called a magistrate, Mr. Churchill, who's come to investigate with his constables and all that sort of stuff. She's even given you just enough description just to have that imagery of the constables, and, you know, I have a picture of what Mr. Churchill looks like and all that sort of stuff. But there's so much stuff happening in here, and I also, so I'm going to continue on reading this. Hopefully I will get it read and all that sort of stuff, and I can move on to some sightseeing throughout the Amazing Readathon. So basically, and this was also the Discord pick. It was picked by Storm from Stormy Reads. So yeah, Storm Reads, sorry. And yeah, so it was so far, it's actually 2 thumbs up from me so far. I'm thinking it is definitely going to be a 5-star read for me, because I am thoroughly enjoying it. Alright, I'm going to get on with the rest of my day. I'm rapidly running out of hours, getting set up for the tomorrow and all the rest of it. And so the next time you see me, I will be checking in with the murder of Mr. Wickham. Alright, so I am doing my final check-in for The Murder of Mr. Wickham by Claudia Gray. This has rocketed to my favourite book of the year, I can say. I have given this a 5-star read. I was enthralled by this book from the very first page, because I knew that it had been based around Jane Austen characters and all that sort of stuff. Now, I am a self-confessed non-fan of Jane Austen, but this was just absolutely brilliant. So from the start to the end, as I said, I was very intrigued how this story was going to play out. I have read other stories that are supposed to be, you know, Pride and Prejudice retellings and all that sort of stuff and whatnot, and I've never found them quite as enjoyable as this one. So basically, we are at the Knightleys' estate. They are hosting a summer house party that is going to run for a month. I couldn't even imagine doing that, for one. And of course, Mr. Wickham turns up, and suddenly everybody is taken aback that he has shown up unannounced and all the rest of it. So everybody in the book has some sort of connection to Wickham, whether it be slightly or not, whether they're related or whether he has done a misdeed to them and all that sort of stuff, except for one person, and that is Juliet Timley is how you pronounce her last name, I'm pretty sure. Let me just have... Tilney, sorry. She has no real connection at all, but she is like she has been invited there as a 17-year-old girl. Her parents are still at home, so she's there alone under the protection and as I guess like a ward to the Knightleys. So anyway, she basically is the only one that doesn't have any connection. So she's quite taken back by everybody's response to Mr. Wickham, and she soon learns that he's not a very nice character at all. We also have Jonathan, which is the Darcy's youngest son. He is there as well, and he has been brought there in hopes that Juliet and him make a connection, and you find that early in the book. But I just love how their characters play their strengths with each other and how they played out and everything like that. I just found Juliet and Jonathan's characters absolutely wonderful for various different reasons that I'm not going to go into because it will spoil the book, but I just love the dynamics of their character. He's very awkward socially. She is quite... she has an adventurous spirit that she hasn't yet tapped into, but you can see that that is going to come. I get the feeling that that character is going to develop a little bit more. So basically, yeah, they end up super sleuthing together because they feel that the magistrate is going to charge the wrong person, and he's looking at the lower classes, or the gypsies as they're called. Now, in the book, and they are referred to in the very front of the book. Claudia explains why she uses that word gypsies in the book, and it's to explain that they are travellers, not any negative connotation for it, because it was the language of the time. There is the author's note at the beginning. She goes into a little bit of detail about different people in the book, the characters and all that sort of stuff, and the different timelines of Jane Austen as well, and also yeah, and what liberties she took and why she did that. Okay, sorry about that. The door, someone was at the door. So basically, yeah, the author tells you what liberties she's taken, what inspiration she's taken, all of that sort of stuff is in the front of the book. I thoroughly enjoyed this. The twists and turns in it, like, I had my suspicions who I thought it was, and I was totally wrong. And throughout the book, your suspicion is cast onto all of them. And Juliet and Jonathan just make a great team. His awkwardness, like, I'm like, fell in love with him, really. Like, just, I can just see my best friend's son in this character. Like, yeah, he is, for lack of a better term, slightly autistic, and he sort of presents himself matter of fact all the time. He's got a lot better as he's got older, but like when he was younger, that's how he was, and he come across quite stiff, and that's how Jonathan comes across, and it was just so well done. In my opinion, it was well done. Just, you know, and the inner dialogue that we get from Jonathan as well, of things that his mum said to him to remind him how to deal with social situations and all that sort of stuff. And you know, and there was a little bit of a story happening there and all the rest of it as well, like with his parents and everything. There was these tiny little stories that were happening that we were working out why they didn't like Wickham and all that sort of stuff. So it was a lot of fun reading, in my opinion. Like, and there were moments that I laughed out loud, moments that I got very cranky at some of the characters and all that sort of stuff. So it brought up all these emotions and everything, and there were some sad moments in it as well. And as for Juliet, her character, as I said, I'm loving her character as well, and I do hope that she Claudia is going to take this character to the heights that she could go. And so she has a very much of an adventurous spirit and whatnot, and I think she complements Jonathan really well, and just the way she holds herself and all that sort of stuff around Jonathan, and how she accepts him for who he is. And there's one section, and I'm not going to give it away, there's one section in the book where he talks about how he deals with things, and just her total acceptance of it was wonderful, and really well done and whatnot. You know, some of the characters in here are definitely flawed, as they are in the original books and all that sort of stuff. So Claudia's managed to bring that across as well. And I'm just so looking forward to the second one. And even just thinking about the book and talking about the book, I guess you can see, like, it's just bringing a smile to my face. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm so glad that Stormy picked this book. I have been putting bits and pieces into the Discord and everything as I've been going and whatnot. I haven't put my final thoughts in yet. I've just wanted to get on camera and do that first. Super excited for the second one. I have to wait a whole month. Essentially, to be able to read that. I have pre-ordered it, so as soon as it comes, I'm definitely going to crack that one open. But anyway, that is my thoughts. Thoroughly enjoyed it. 5-star read from me. Looking forward to the second in the series, and it's called the Darcy and Tilney murder mystery series, I think it's called now, because it's got a title. So yeah, and I'm looking forward to reading more from Claudia Gray as well. So thank you very much, Stormy. I really do appreciate you picking this book. It's been a fun time read. All right, I'm going to get on with the rest of my day doing this quilt and whatnot, and I will I'm not too sure what the next book is I'm going to read. I'm going to get this set up, and then I'll have a look at my TBR and see if the next prompt has dropped. I might have to just do some sightseeing while I'm in New York with the Amazing Readathon. Hi everybody, and welcome back. Alright, so today is the Friday morning. I checked in yesterday for Mr. Wickham, and I was going to read No Angel, and then I decided to go off with a smaller book. And so basically I ended up picking up Melina Machetta's, I think that's how you pronounce her last name, Looking for Alibrandi. This was published, and I haven't done any check-ins or anything like that. I just basically, I got this on audio. I didn't actually even really crack open the book. I think I may have done an hour of immersive reading, but I mostly listened to it. This book was first published in 1992, and it's set in Sydney, Australia, and it is following the story of Alibrandi, who, her name is Josephine Alibrandi, but she's referred to as Alibrandi. She's 17 years old. She's in her last year of high school, and basically, yeah, it's a coming of age story, essentially. She's trying to find herself and put her place, like, where she is in the big wide world and all that sort of stuff. So it's sort of just following, you know, her story and her dynamics with her mother and her grandmother, and, you know, meeting her father for the first time and all that sort of stuff. All right, so basically the book is about, as I said, 17-year-old Alibrandi. She's illegitimate and in her final year at a wealthy Catholic college in Sydney, and as if that wasn't enough, this is the year her father comes back into her life, the year she falls in love, and the year she discovers family secrets that finally set her free. The story of Josephine is a strong and enduring, no, we don't need any of that. That's just saying how good the author is and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, this is a Khrissy pick. Okay, this was one of her favourite books. Khrissy is a little bit younger than me, and she was in high school when this book came out. So I can understand why this was such an amazing book to a lot of people in the 90s and all that sort of stuff. And I had a lot of nostalgia myself. I had been, by this stage, I had been out of high school for 7 years. At that stage, I was 22 when this came out, but in saying that, I still had a lot of friends that were in high school, had just finished high school and all that sort of stuff, because my sister and my brother are actually 5 and 7 years younger than me. So I had a lot of friends from their friend group as well and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of things hadn't really changed that much in what she was explaining in here. Also, I related to this quite a bit after reading it, and I was thinking about it a little bit more and had a bit of a discussion with it with Khrissy in Messenger and whatnot. And, you know, like, I can really see some comparisons in this of the us and them and all that sort of stuff. At the time of this book coming out, I actually lived down in Wollongong of New South Wales. At that time was a very much us and them type, you know, Australian versus, as she calls them in here, European, but, you know, they came from whatever country that they immigrated to this country. Most of them came here in the 50s, and basically I could relate to that because my grandparents on my dad's side also came to this country in 1955. My dad was born in Alexandria, Egypt, and his sister was also born there as well. She was 2, he was 5. At the time, almost 3, I think my auntie was. My grandmother spoke 3 different languages. My grandfather spoke 9 different languages, but they came from Egypt, and so they were in the minority at that time because there was a lot of Italians that came to this country. A lot of them moved to North Queensland and all that sort of stuff in the cane fields, and it was very isolating. A lot of these young women that came with their husbands never saw their families again and all that sort of stuff, and that was all touched on in this. And this was very much the same for my grandmother. Even though she wasn't Italian, they came to Sydney and they settled in Sydney, and, you know, and just the dynamics, like my grandmother, my nonna, we called her nonna, and because they were in the minority and they could speak Italian, they chose to speak Italian. So the Italian was the language that was spoken at home at my grandparents' place. I, however, do not speak Italian because their belief was that we needed to learn the language and become part of the culture here and all that sort of stuff. So that was their beliefs. That's not always the beliefs of every household that you come into and whatnot. And yeah, so there was a lot of things, and because it was set around Sydney, also around the areas that I used to hang out and all that sort of stuff, there was a lot of nostalgia there for me. So it was, I gave it like, I gave it a 3-4 star read. maybe 3.5, maybe 3.75, mainly just the nostalgia fact of it. There was a lot of things that happened in this book that sort of happened at school and all that sort of stuff. Some of the language in this book is not great, but it has to be in there so you understand it. When the author was talking about her nonna and whatnot, and her, you know, waving the arms and speaking like she was almost about to burst into tears and all of that sort of stuff, it was quite interesting because it was just provoking images of my nonna. My grandfather passed away in 1990 when I was 20 years old. So, but I had, you know, like I was 20 and I'd had a lot to do with him, and he was such a funny dude. Like, he was so funny and he was so cheeky. He was considerably older than my grandmother, and he was such an intelligent man as well. As I said, he spoke 9 languages and whatnot. And when he came to this country, all of his expertise in things and whatnot from his own country, because he was from Malta and he immigrated to Egypt after the Second World War. So they basically he called himself a Maltese descendant. So instead of an immigrant, that's what he called himself. And then he married my nonna, who was like 15 years his junior, and it was an arranged marriage. So yeah, so there's a lot of like things that were said in this book that just cracked me up. They were Catholic, you know, they had, my nonna definitely was set in her ways, and that he was a little bit more cheeky, and he was a little bit more pushing for, you know, a little bit of a rebelness in all the grandchildren and all that sort of stuff. So it would have been nice if that had a factor in here, but as the story plays on, you find out why you know, the strained relationship between Ali Brandy's mum and her mother, and then subsequently some of the problems that Ali Brandy was having with her nonna and her mother and all that sort of stuff. So it's all centered around that sort of thing. Not really doing this any justice, but it was a good read. I had a good time reading it. It was a quick read. It's only 265 pages. I'm really happy that I have read it. Yeah, so thank you, Khrissy, for giving me this book to read. I'm hoping it's definitely not the favorite one out of the 2 that I've read so far. The first one that you gave me, absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, as I said in the wrap up of Mr. Wickham, I was going to read No Angel. I am now going on to that, except I'm not going to start it today because it is Friday. I am actually starting Wheel of Time today during sprints. So once I have read that for sprints, then I will start that. So I'll either start it tonight when I go to bed, or I'll start it tomorrow. I do have it on audio. It is a 750 page book, so it's probably going to take me a little bit to get through that. Now, Khrissy has given to me on good authority, which is her authority. Basically, she said that Penny Vizenzi is a phenomenal storyteller, and that she thinks that I am going to absolutely love her books. And it was quite an interesting conversation that I had with Khrissy about this particular book. So I'm looking forward to reading it. I haven't been put off by any of the books so far on the TBR, although this did not rate as high as The Pearl in the Cage. All right, I am going to, and if I didn't say it already, which I think I did at the beginning of the vlog, Pearl in the Cage is actually not going to appear in this vlog. It is actually going to be over on a separate vlog by itself, because I want to read more from Joy Detman, who is an Australian author. So she is going to go into the series of Meet the Author, and I've just got to acquire a few more of her books, so fingers crossed that I can do that. All right, I'm going to head off, get my cuppa, and I will see you all in, well, you would have already seen those sprints, but anyway, I'm going to head off and do some sprints and all the rest of it. I'm also not going to talk about Wheel of Time in this vlog either. I am putting that into a separate vlog that will come out. I think maybe I might group some books together so there's not so many videos of it. I don't know. We'll see how we go. I'm still working out what I'm going to do. So anyway, have a fabulous day, everybody, and happy reading. And I will see you with the next book I'm probably going to read maybe 3 or 4 chapters, check in and do my normal thing. So I'll see you then. Hi everybody and welcome back. Today is the 5th of August and I forgot to do a check-in for Amari and the Knight Brothers. So I am using this for the second leg of the Amazing Readathon. The Amazing Readathon prompt was to read a book with a beautiful cover. I think this qualifies, and it's blue, so it's my team colour as well, so I get bonus points for that. Whoops, sorry about that. I just kicked my table. So this is a middle grade book, and this has been on my shelf for about a month. No, it'll be about 3 months now. Oh my goodness. Originally I was going to read it as a group read with Chatty the Mad Chatterer, but life got in the way and I didn't get a chance to do that. I also have this on audio, so I have been listening to this. Basically, I picked it up and done a little bit of immersive reading when I first started, I think maybe 3 or 4 chapters, and then I went on to audio so I can get on with the rest of the day. Excuse me. So I'm not usually one to read a lot of middle grade, but my granddaughter is right into reading, so I thought this would be a good book to have on audio for her and also on her shelf so she can sit down and read it when she's here. But basically, while we're traveling, I thought it would be a good opportunity for her to listen to an audiobook. And she is very accustomed to audiobooks because she used to go in the truck with my husband all the time. And I also read to her. I do YouTube videos for her and have them set as unlisted. And I have a channel set up for her where I read actual books to her because she lives a fair way away from us, and we don't get to see her very often, and she loves it when we read to her. I'm trying to convince my daughters to do it. They're not into it, so it's just going to be me for now. And I've got all her favourite books on there that I've read for her and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, I am here to do my first, second and third check-in because I forgot to vlog my experience while reading it. I absolutely adore this book. Like, I fell into this story and I was captivated from the moment I opened up the book. So basically, if you don't know what Amari and the Knight Brothers is, I don't know where you've been, but because it's been everybody that I seem to watch has read it or have it on their TBR to you know, or they're about to purchase it or whatever the case may be. I actually got a box set off can't remember whether it was Booktopia or Amazon, but they came with these really nice covers. The other one is like an orange cover, and I'm planning on reading that very soon. So basically, we have Amari. Her brother has gone missing and she is a troubled student. She's got herself into trouble. This is the opening scene. She's got herself into trouble at school, and basically she's been kicked out because she's been a little bit of a twat. But she's in a bad place. She misses her brother. He's been missing. Then no one knows what happened to him or anything like that. He was supposedly working for this job, but they couldn't prove where he worked or anything like that. So they sort of ran into a dead end. Anyway, it comes to, I believe it was the summer holidays. I think it was the summer holidays. And basically she's been kicked out of school, and then there was a message for her that she had a parcel coming. She gets this parcel and the story ensues from there, and I do not want to give it away, for anything away. This is a magical story. This would be perfect if you are a really good reader. Like, I wouldn't be able to do it because it's too long. I do short books for Mia. I don't do long books. And I struggle with reading out loud. So short books are good for me. And I usually practice it a couple of times before I do it. So yeah, this would be a little bit too hard to read out. But if you are a person that can read out loud to kids, this is definitely a book that you could sit down and share with them. It is such an amazing book. I'm looking forward. Like, I'm not normally someone that would reread a middle grade book. I'm not even a person that would read a lot of middle grade books, but I love hanging out with Chatty in her Discord because I get lots of good recommendations, and I've read a couple of really good ones this year. And I don't participate all the time in their buddy reads and whatnot, but I get to see what they're all saying about the books, and I don't mind if they get a little bit spoilt because I'm really looking for quality books for my granddaughter. Like, she's struggling with school, but she loves to read. So I'm happy with her loving to read, because my philosophy is if your kid can read and they enjoy reading, the education will come later. That just keep them reading, keep them engaged in reading, and that's the whole point of me reading online. She gets to read along with me and all that sort of stuff. But this is going to be this is going to be right up her alley. She likes magical stuff. She loves fantasy stuff as well. So I've got the audio book now. So when she comes to visit us in the spring holidays on spring break, we'll be able to listen to that on the way home and then on the way back home again. And so she'll have an amazing story to listen to. And, you know, I can always continue on reading to her, you know, a couple of chapters or whatever. I'm not great at it, but a couple of chapters I could probably do. And she really does enjoy it. I am even more excited that I've got these beautiful copies for her for the bookshelf here. And then eventually they will go to her when she leaves home or whatever the case may be. But yeah, so, and I've got the other one. I don't have it out here with me, but I have given this a solid 5 stars. I loved all the magical elements in it. I loved the world building in it. I loved the friends that were in it. I loved the enemies that were in it. I loved everything about it. And I can't honestly say that I've ever said that about any middle grade book at my age of 53. So it just goes to show you that even middle grade books can just hit the right point for you when you're reading them. And I cannot wait to share this with my granddaughter, Mia. All right, I am going to move on and do some sightseeing if I can. And I will check in when I have the next prompt. Hi everybody, I'm back again for another check-in. This one is not going to get you know, part 1, 2 and 3 of the check-in. This is just going to be a straight up, I've read it, this is what it is. All right, so the what are we up to? The third leg of the Amazing Readathon, excuse me, has dropped. It is for Brazil, Sao Paulo to be exact. Sao Paulo, I think is how you pronounce it. I don't know. Anyway, it's in Brazil. Okay, we all know that pronunciations are not my jam, right? Okay, so excuse me. The prompt for this came out on the, I think it was the 7th. It came out. Today is the 8th. So we are at Tuesday and whatnot. So anyway, I started reading this last night, and yeah, it's been an epic weekend, and it's been, as you would have seen, the book going off to the markets and all that sort of stuff. And then I had sprints yesterday, and so the prompt dropped during that time. I had to find a book, and I struggled a little bit to find a book. So anyway, I ended up finding Danielle Steele's Worthy Opponents. I had to have 3 people on the cover. It's in team colours as well, which is good. It's definitely over 50%. And basically, it had to have 3 people on the cover. So we've got these 2 here, and then there's a person just there. These are mannequins, but this is actually a person. So what is the book about? It's a Danielle Steele book, so you know it's going to be a quick read. The writing in this is huge, and to top it all off, this book is actually one that I purchased on the weekend. So luckily I purchased something, because none of the covers had 3 people on it. I think I had one other one, and it was white. So I didn't want to use that because I was going to miss out on some you know, cash for traveling and whatnot. Because if we read in our team colours, we get 50 GRC, which is the currency that we're using to travel. So I've managed to get 50 GRC for everyone, and I think Amari, I got 100 GRC. So, and I'm playing the game because we've got 10 things, and every leg it's more expensive to travel by plane and more expensive to travel. So I'm playing around a little bit with the GRC at the moment, because I've got to maintain money to keep traveling, otherwise I'm walking, and it takes longer to get there, obviously. So anyway, basically the family, it says on the top, family, legacy and trust. All right, so we I think her name is Spencer. We are following the story of Spencer, who is operating a beautiful bougie type boutique that her grandfather has basically left her. Well, it was left to her father, and he wasn't really interested in it, but subsequently he died at a young age, and she ended up inheriting this building retail place. They own the building. It was bought way back when. Her grandfather taught her everything she knows about retail and how to connect with customers and all that sort of stuff, but they are in a bad neighborhood, and they are struggling a little bit. They're not moving with the times. They're not online yet. It's taking forever to get online and all the rest of it. In comes Mike, I want to say. Am I right? Let me just see. Yes. Oh, look at that. I remembered. Oh, shock-horror. Mike comes in, and he is someone that is an entrepreneur that buys into businesses to end up owning them. So he will give them capital. He'll have them in the business, teaching that, you know, trying to keep it the same and all that sort of stuff, helping it expand. He's basically the money man. But Spencer is so attached to the building because it was her grandfather's legacy, and she wants to keep it the same and all that sort of stuff. And of course there is a love story that ensues because it is Danielle Steele after all. And so yeah, so they overcome you know, and you know, there's a bit of, you know, miscommunication, a little bit of no's and all that sort of stuff, and keeps you on the edge of your seat long enough to see will they, won't they, all that sort of hoo-ha and all the rest of it. All Danielle Steele books are generally a solid 3 stars for me. They're not a shitty book. They're just a great book to read. When I treat them as a book when I'm reading, when I'm not really reading, because there's not a great deal of stuff that you have to remember or anything like that. It's just a general, good, wholesome story. You know, some have a tragedy that they overcome. Others have, you know, some, you know, roadblocks that they've got to circumnavigate and all that sort of stuff, and I just love reading them. So, and if you haven't been around before and you wonder why I'm collecting these at the moment, because I want to read her entire catalogue. So far I have got quite a number of her books. I'm not sure of the number. On the weekend I did get 22. By the time you're seeing this video you would have already seen the whole video for that. Sorry, 21 I got. So you'll already see that video and know that I got quite a number of almost brand new books. Like this one, I would say that this book has never been opened before. When I got it, I have actually opened it and read it. It is a bit of a floppy paperback as well, so they tend not to crease and all that sort of stuff, but it is in really good condition, and I paid $3 for this. So I am super stoked that I got all these books, and I'm hoping to get all of her catalogue. And this one was published just recently too. This one came out in 2023, so it is one of her new releases from this year. So yeah, I'm pretty yeah, definitely 2023. That's definitely all the numbers that are in there. So I'm really happy with it. So it's a solid 3 star for me. I'm looking forward to reading some more Danielle Steele. I've got a few on my bingo TBR, and yeah, whenever I'm looking for something to read, I'll just grab one of these and read along with it. And there are a whole heap that you can get over on Scrib too. There's a lot of ebooks over there as well, and not a lot of audiobooks as well. Well, not here anyway in Australia on our Scrib. So yeah, but yeah, I was really happy that I read it, and it means that I got to Brazil, and so now I can do some sightseeing, which I don't think I'm going to do any sightseeing for Brazil. I'm just going to organise some stuff, get some filming done, and yeah, and just wait for the next leg to drop. All right. I'm out of here, patiently waiting for the next leg, and also I'll probably do some reading from Khrissy Picked as well, so I will check in for that as soon as I know anything. All right, see you soon. Bye. Well, good morning, everybody. I am doing a check-in for the Amazing Readathon. Basically, I have just woken up, and I've been awake for about 15 minutes, and I have been doing a little bit of hunting on my TBR because the 4th prompt has dropped for the Amazing Readathon, and we're off to London. So, yeah, so basically I the prompt is to read a retelling, so a great literary. My understanding of it was a retelling from, you know, like Jane Austen, Dickens, all that sort of stuff. Something along those, like, you know, a great literary work. So that's my interpretation of it. So I have decided to go with a Jane Eyre retelling because it was one of my favourite books from the Brontes. It's tied at the moment between Jane Eyre and The Tenant of Wildfell Hall because I do like Anne Bronte's writing as well. But anyway, I ended up going with a Jane Eyre retelling. It's called Jane Steele by Lindsay Fay, and I have just finished reading chapter 3 and I'm absolutely loving it. It's very much like it's basically the same plot line, except it's got some murderous stuff in it. So that's what I can gather so far. I read the synopsis, and it really intrigued me. So I'm pretty happy to go with this one. Unfortunately for the blue team, we came in last for the St. Polo leg in Brazil. So we have to read a book that is over 400 pages, and this one fits the bill, coming in at, well, depending on where you look on Goodreads, it comes in either at 400 to 436, depending on the book or where you get it from, what whether it's Kindle and all the rest of it. So I am listening to this as well as reading along when I have a break and all that sort of stuff, because it was cheap to buy the Kindle, so I got that as well with the audio, and because I do like immersive reading. So yeah, it's actually this last couple of months, it's actually become my favorite way to read books. So and plus it also helps me keep on track as well, especially when my family starts coming in and talking to me and I lose my spot and all the rest of it. So it has become one of my favourite ways of reading. I don't do it all the time, but yeah. So this one, I've got a quilt to do. I've got some filming to do for the craft channel as well, for my Patreon over on the craft channel, and all that sort of stuff. I'm gearing up to come back from a couple of month break, like a winter break. And so yeah, so basically, yeah, I'm listening to it. I'm really enjoying it. I'm loving the writing style of Lindsay Say. I've never heard of this author before, so this is great. I've actually come across something. I did see it and knew that it was a retelling, and it was on my radar. It was printed in 2016, I think, is when it was released. So yeah, I've not heard of the author before, other than seeing this, that it was a retelling and all that sort of stuff. And I think I was looking for a retelling for a bingo prompt maybe, and that's how I came across it. So yeah, I'm not usually one to go in for retellings, but this one's actually working out really well and I'm really enjoying it. So far so good. Now, I will check in again when I get to the 50% mark, which, oh no, well, it won't be that. It'll be, my normal check-in is, around 100 to 120 pages is when I decide to DNF it. But I think I might push this one to the 50% mark, because I am listening to it on audio and I'm going to be at the quilting machine and I won't be paying attention to where I'm up to. So I will just keep reading it, listening to it this morning. That will get me to about lunchtime and that quilt should be finished. So yeah, I'll check in then. Okay, so I have been busily quilting away, getting quilts prepared. So I've put bindings on some quilts and whatnot, getting ready to stitch them down. And I've been listening to Jane Steele by Lindsay Fay. This is a great book. Like, it's essentially Jane Eyre on the other end of the scale. So Jane Eyre was like religious and had all her traumas and all the rest of it. So we've gone through the same sort of plot points and all that sort of stuff. She's now a governess, and all that sort of stuff. And there's a little bit of banter happening because I'm about midway point of the book. I think I'm up to 225. So yeah, like, I'm really enjoying it. It's absolutely fantastic. I love it. And it's a nice, like, murderous story. So, but I can see the comparisons and everything in the retelling. I'm obviously not going to DNF it because I'm just having a fabulous time. It's actually keeping me very motivated today with work and everything like that. I've been looking for fabrics and all that sort of stuff for my craft Patreon and all that. So yeah, it's actually kept me quite motivated while I've been doing that. As I said, I've got a quilt finished, and I also put the bindings on both of them, and now I've just got to hand stitch them, but that's for tomorrow because I've got paperwork and stuff to do. And it's actually keeping me very engaged. Sometimes I can listen to a book during the day, and when I sit down at the computer, I just can't keep engaged in it, whereas this one I am. Now, I've got to a point where Jane Steele, who is now going by a different name, she's still going by Jane, but Jane Stone, because for obvious reasons, she has now, as I said, ended up being a governess, and there's the banter between the master of the house and her, and yeah, and there's something going on with him, but we don't quite know yet. So they may, I don't know, I don't know how it's going to play out, like whether or not it's going to go the way the way I think it's going to go. So yeah, so I'm going to keep going with it. I don't want to say too much more because I might end up spoiling it. So the next time I check in will be my wrap up for it. So I haven't really given a synopsis for it because it is definitely a Jane Eyre retelling. Basically, you know, she's an orphan, the same as Jane Eyre was, living with a disgruntled auntie, you know, had a terrible cousin and all that sort of stuff. The only difference with this one is she's not as moralistic as Jane Eyre was. This one is quite the criminal. So it's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying the other side of the coin of it. All right, I'm going to get back to work before I lose my momentum, and I'll check in when I wrap it up. Okay, I am here to do the final wrap up for the book that I've been reading all day, which was Jane Steele. It is a retelling of Jane Eyre, and it pretty much is a 4-star read for me. Now, I've not given it 5 stars, even though I thoroughly enjoyed it and I could not stop reading and listening to it today. It's kept me motivated all day and all that sort of stuff. But I have actually only given it a 4-star rating because, let's face it, the plot was already set out, because the author, you know, has just basically taken Jane Eyre and pretty much taken Jane Eyre and just put a murderous plot into it. But it was still a fantastic read. Like, I was so happy that I picked this book to read today, because it was not any book that I had here. It was one that I just knew it was around. It had been on my radar and all the rest of it, and it was one that I just got on Kindle and audio, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to read this today because it fits the bill and whatnot. And I'm so glad I did. So if you know the story of Jane Eyre, you know how this story's played out and all the rest of it. There's a few little subtle differences and whatnot. As I said, there's the we've got that basic plot line, but it's very murderous along the way. That's all I'm really going to say, because other than that, I'm going to give it all away. So yeah, but if you like Jane Eyre and you're looking for a retelling, I highly recommend this book. It did not disappoint at all. It was a fun read, as far as murder can go. And, you know, like, and you really do, as you're reading along, you really are sympathising with Jane Steele. And so you can sort of see why she did the things that she did. And, yeah, so, but that's all I'm going to say. It is a 4-star, a solid 4-star read for me. I absolutely enjoyed it. I would even go as far as to say I would reread this again, even though I know how it plays out. And it's probably one that I wouldn't mind purchasing, because, as I said, Jane Eyre is one of my favourite Bronte books, and I wouldn't mind purchasing it to have it, you know, sitting there as a retelling, and maybe my daughters might read it a little bit later on, or Mia might, you know, for whatever reason, but even still later on down the track I can pick it up and reread it. Alright, so that is the London prompt now done. So now I'm off to do some sightseeing, and I'm thinking that I might start either Long Bright River or No Angel. I'm not too sure. No Angel is a series, and that's part of Khrissy's pick. So I'm thinking I might get stuck into that. But Long Bright River is also a group read that we're doing. And Long Bright River is it's right here. I don't know where I've put No Angel. I must have already taken it into the bedroom. So maybe that's made my decision because it's already in the bedroom. But I do have to start this as well. And I've also have to do some reading of that as well, but that I think I might leave till tomorrow, and all the rest of it. So that is the London leg all wrapped up. As I said, I'm off to do some sightseeing. Can't wait to see what the next one is, and I'll see you all then. Bye. Hi everybody, I am just doing a check-in. Now, we just finished the, it is Monday afternoon, the 14th of August, and at 10 o'clock this morning, Australian Eastern Standard Time, we finished up the weekend for the Amazing Readathon's face-off weekend. So it was a 48-hour event. There were sprints for the entire 48 hours. And so basically, our challenge was to read as many books as we could in that 48-hour period. And there were sprints that started at the beginning and right up until the end. And then there was an announcement, books down, that's it, you've reached the end. And then you had 4 hours to log all your books. I logged all my books as I was going, so I didn't have to worry about that. So for me, it finished at 10 a.m. this morning, which was 6 p.m. Mountain Time in the US. So anyway, I didn't end up reading anything this morning, but as I said, I read 12 books over the weekend. Now, a lot of the books I'm not going to be able to talk about because it's just going to give it away. But I read some romance, I read a thriller, or mystery thriller, I read some contemporary stuff, I read a non-fiction. I read a translated works. Yeah, there was a whole heap that I read, and these were all books that I had for a while that were either free through Audible Originals, and most of those were like 2 to 3 hour audiobooks, or they were through Kindle Unlimited, and they were, you know, 47 pages, some were 170, all that sort of stuff. I also read I read 2 cozy mysteries from a series that I started, and I read a short story which was a 0.5 novella for a not true crime, sorry, a crime thriller series that I've been looking at for a while. It's all on Kindle Unlimited, and it's by Melinda Lee. I can't think of the detective's name off the top of my head. After reading 12 books, things are a little bit blurry. But my standout ones was the Christmas Pact. That was quite good. That was quite interesting. The proposal, the wedding proposal, was another good one. That was an original one, and I'm putting the images up for you. And there was also Crimes of Passion. That was quite a good little book as well. But the standout for me for the weekend was I'm Basha Posh, which was a non-fiction set in Afghanistan, and it was a woman telling her story. Now, a Basha Posh is an actual thing. In Afghanistan, if a family doesn't have any males, hasn't had born a son yet or whatever, their eldest daughter will be told that she'll be dressing as a man. So this gives her rights, as, you know, be able to go out by herself, to able to earn money, to help support the family, and all this sort of stuff. But when she gets to the beginning of her adolescence, she must go back to being a girl, and so she has to give all of that up because of their customs and all that sort of stuff. And so she basically refused to, and it's telling her story. So she goes through, while it was, I think it would have been really good if it had been more in depth, I still gave it a 4.5-star rating. And I think I'd done 5 stars on Goodreads because it was good to me, right? So basically, yeah, it just tells her story from when she was young and how she became, you know, and the things that she did and why she wanted to stay that way and all that sort of stuff, and some of the things that the struggles and all that sort of stuff that she went through, because she essentially was a woman dressing as a man, and that's what they call them, is Basha Posh. And this is not just, this is, you know, something that is done quite often, and as far as I'm aware, is still done today. So it was a really interesting story. I would have liked it to go into a little bit more depth and all that sort of stuff, but I guess, you know, she wrote the book how she wrote it, and you know, she ended up coming to America and all that sort of stuff. There was all of that sort of stuff, and she met Michelle Obama, and Hillary Clinton was also mentioned as well. And so I think from her, you know, she helped to fight in the resistance and all that sort of stuff. So she did a lot of stuff that women wouldn't normally do. And so when it came time for her to go back, even as a young child, and she was helping the family and everything, when it time to go back and have children and all that sort of stuff, she just did not want to do that. And so, yeah, so it was a really interesting story. I had it on Kindle, and I'm pretty sure I got it through BookBub. I can't remember. I've had it on my Kindle for quite some time. But yeah, it was a really interesting story. It was quite a quick read as well. I also have audio with it as well, so I was able to sit down and read it and also keep working and whatnot. But that was my standout book. That was my 5-star read for the 4.5 5-star read for the weekend. A lot of the other books, as I said, there was romance, there was some thriller in there, mystery, there was all sorts of stuff. There was even a historical fiction one in there about a storm that happened in 1935 on the Florida Keys. It was a fictional story that was told, but it was based on that horrific hurricane that came through and the people that died in that. all the books that I read and listened to over the weekend, all were really well done. Sometimes I really struggle with short stories, and that's why I don't read a lot of them. But these are ones that I've had that just seemed like they were really interesting from the synopsis. And so that's why they were sitting there. So it was a perfect weekend to knock a few of them off. Unfortunately, the list did not go down because as I was reading, I was getting recommendations and more stuff ended up on my list. So I think I ended up adding another 20 on. So I read 12 and added 20. So I grew the list by 8, essentially. But that also meant that it was the weekend, which meant that we also have the Dusty Book Sniffers bingo prompt. And the prompt this week was to read a book that was either gifted to you or a book that you had borrowed. So that means that you can go to the library or you could borrow off a friend. And I'm sure we've all got books on our shelves that are a gift. And so this one was gifted to me from Khrissy, and it's also one of Khrissy's picks. So I'm able to use that this week. It's off my TBR. It's off my shelf as well. It fits the bingo prompt, but the best part is I can actually use it for the Amazing Readathon as well, because no sooner had the face-off finished, the next prompt dropped. And so it was a very vague prompt. So it was basically, we can read a romance. You can read a thriller that might have a subplot with a romance in it and all that sort of stuff. This one here, when I looked it up, this is like a mystery is sort of happening at the moment. And because I've started reading it, I'm probably about, I don't know, I think I was up to page 65. I didn't put my bookmark in it. It's not chapters as such. It's got dates. So then 1989 is where I'm up to. So basically the story starts out where with Chris and Emily, and we know that very early on in the pages that there's been a accident and Emily is dead. And it turns out that the pact was that they were going to suicide. It was a suicide pact. So she was going to do herself first, and then he was going to do himself, but things don't quite add up. And so that's where the story is going so far. I'm thoroughly enjoying it so far. I wasn't too sure about the topic, how in depth it was going to go. I have been told before that Jodi Pickett can go a bit deep. I haven't read a lot of her books. I think I've read Mercy, and that was about euthanasia. This one is about suicide. So some heavy topics. Yeah, so far so good. I'm really liking it. I've just settled in. I was listening to it because I do have it on audio, but I'm just settling in now into bed, and I'm thinking that I'm just going to curl up and read as much as I can tonight. It's reading pretty quickly too. Like as I said, I'm already up to page 66, and I've only been even reading it for a little while, and it is actually moving along quite quickly. So I'm really interested to see how far this is going to go, how deep she's going to go with her topic. But yeah, I'm interested to find out too, right? Because yeah, one has survived, and the other one, and although he had injuries, the other has died, and yeah, and it's not looking real good for him either. So I'm going to continue on reading that, and I'm so glad that I was able to pull this off. I've been saving my blue books, and I was able to pull this off my TBR finally, and get it started to read it, and hopefully I'll finish it in the morning. Okay, so I'm up to page 230 of The Pact by Jodi Pickett. I'm really enjoying this book. It is actually a really good book, even though the content is about suicide and all the rest of it. But Jodi Pickett is like guiding us through the reactions of the parents, and on each side of because these young couple were actually boyfriend and girlfriend, and like there's some of the things that a little bit sketchy stuff, like the mother just burnt the diary from the daughter. Like, that's a bit of a spoiler, so that's a little bit sketchy. I don't know what that's about. But it's going through their relationship and how they felt about one another. And we are getting a little bit of Emily's perspective, even though she's deceased. And basically, he now has to prove his innocence. Like, I can't talk about this book without giving that major plot point. So Emily and Chris were going to kill themselves. She killed herself. That's what he is saying. But there was evidence to suggest otherwise. And so he has been arrested, he has been arraigned, and he is in jail right now awaiting trial. And he's only 18, and he's being charged as, obviously, as an adult, and he's in a maximum security prison. And so his family is dealing with the fact that he is in there and he's not being he's not getting parole. He has to stay in prison. There's no chance of him getting parole or anything like that. So we're getting their side of the coin of what's happening, and then we're getting the other side of the coin of the family that's buried their daughter. They're trying to work out, was she suicidal, or, you know. And these family have been close. These two families have been close since the children were born, before they were born. So it's showing the turmoil that they're going through. And the private investigator just spoke to Emily's father. And, yeah, so we're starting to see a little bit more progression through and all that sort of stuff. I'm really enjoying how, like, when I read Mercy, because Khrissy has asked me to read Jodi Pickett for a longest time. She's her favourite author, and she keeps on me. And even my daughter has said, you need to read Jodi Pickett. She's good. You need to read her. And I always am a little bit skeptical of reading books that people really are passionate about, because what happens if I don't like it, you know? And I must admit, I read Mercy probably about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, and while I did enjoy the storyline and all the rest of it, I didn't really enjoy the book at the same time, if that makes any sense. But I was keen to see where it was going to end, where it was going to go, and all that sort of stuff. So I'm glad that that Khrissy has sent me this to read, because I am thoroughly enjoying the story. I am really engrossed. It's a couple of hours since I did the last check-in. Like, I've had dinner and all that sort of stuff, and I kept listening, and I'm doing a little bit of physical reading now. It's really good. It's like, either way, it's really good. So I'm thinking, like, I'm at 230 now, and there's only 450 pages, 51 pages in this book. So I'm thinking that I'm actually going to get this finished tonight, if not tomorrow morning. I've got a bit of a late start tomorrow morning, so I can sort of sit in bed for a little bit and read. And because I don't have much on this week because I'm going away. I had all my quilts done and everything. So got a little bit of a slow week, which is good. A little bit of self-care and whatnot. So yeah, so I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I want to sort of get through this, because I want to get back to this one. Because I was really enjoying that one. So yeah, so far so good. I am not going to do a prediction yet on what star rating I'm going to give it, but right now I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I'm going to get back to it. I will check in with you when I'm finished the book and give you my final thoughts. Hi everybody, and welcome back. It is my final check-in for the Packed by Jodi Pickett. So you've already seen my clips of what I was thinking as I was reading it and all that sort of stuff. Well, I've read the last 200 pages. I've just finished it, so I've had a little bit of a think about it. I probably finished it about 45 minutes ago. I've had a bit of a think about it and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, I enjoyed this story, even though it was a really tough topic. I actually enjoyed the story. So basically the book is about love, tragedy, human relationships, all that sort of stuff, and you know, and how our friendships and our relationships can be put to the test when some massive tragedy happens in our lives. So yeah, so basically Jodi Pickett has she's managed to tell a story in such a way that while it's confronting, it captivates you, and it brings you in, and it has you wanting to be in the story from the very beginning. Like, the opening scene in this book is just like, oh my goodness, like, what would you do? Like, how would you react? All that sort of stuff. So we have Chris and Emily, which I've already said are the center of the story. They're lifelong friends. They've known each other since they were like babies. Their parents have known each other while they were in the womb, all that sort of stuff. stuff. They end up from lifelong friends. They become sweethearts. Everybody's saying this is the natural progression of it. And so, yeah, so there is a deep, deep connection between the two characters and also the families. So yeah, so it was a bit of a tough read, all that sort of stuff. But I think one of the strengths of the novel is the way that the author has managed to portray the emotion behind the characters as well, and also make it very thought-provoking, like how would you deal with it, and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, and it covers many topics of like betrayal and bond, like, you know, how far is too far, and what would you do to protect people and all that sort of stuff. There was a couple of things in there that I didn't quite understand why the author wrote them in, whether it was to portray that the mother was trying to protect the daughter in some way. I'm not really 100% sure of that. And like, just thinking about it now, I'm like, it was an odd thing for that character to do. Yeah, and also, like, and the story also made me think about, you know, how well do we really know our children? Like, how well do we know what their thoughts are and all that sort of stuff? And, you know, how complacent is too complacent, do you know what I mean? Thinking that your kids are all okay when really they're not, you know, and that sort of stuff. I found the characters to be well-rounded. I found some of their things were questionable, but like their actions were questionable, but the characters themselves seemed to be well-rounded and believable in that aspect and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the book and all that sort of stuff. Like, I did find it to be a tough topic though, and I would honestly say that if you don't like reading about suicide, this definitely is not the book for you. Okay, if you have any sort of children, like teenagers or even young adults or even adults in your life that have suicidal tendencies and stuff like that, this is going to be very triggering for you, so it's probably not a book for you. So I found the book, I've just got some notes here that I've written down, and I'm just looking at some of my points that I've put up there. As I was saying, I found it very thought-provoking and all that sort of stuff on the aspect of like, how well do we really know our kids, you know, like what they're thinking and all that sort of stuff. Overall, I thought it was a great book. I felt that Jodi Pickett, while the topic could have gone a little bit deeper, I think she did it justice, and that you know, that she explored the legal side of it as well quite well. I'm no lawyer or anything, but I felt it was very realistic when it was playing out in the courtroom and stuff like that. So yeah, I found it to be a well-rounded book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I have given it a solid 3.5 stars because there was just some things in here that were just a little bit questionable. While I know that this is one of Khrissy's favourite books, I can't honestly say that it would be one of my favourite books, and that's because I'm just being totally honest. I think a lot of people would enjoy this book. I just didn't, I didn't find, like the topic was a little bit tough for me. Like I don't like to read about that, so that sort of knocked it down a little bit. And as I said, there were some things in here that could have probably been explored a little bit further and weren't. And some of the questionable things the characters did also didn't sit well with me, but it's a solid 3.5 star, which means that it's a good book. It's not a shitty book at all. It's a good book. So if you're into Jodi Pickett and you haven't read this one, highly recommend that you pick it up. As I said, it is Khrissy's favourite book. And good news, Khrissy, though. Savannah did see me reading this, like that it was on my TBR, because I've got a shelf that is my monthly TBR, and she said it was on there, and she's like, ooh, I want to read that. So yeah, and I must say that when I went looking on Goodreads, this cover's on there, but there was a lot of other covers that I would not have picked up what it was. This here is quite relevant to the story of where Chris and Emily did what they did. This is quite relevant. So this is a much better a much better cover. Now, I also used this too for the Amazing Readathon, for the Rome leg. I'm starting to get lost. I kept thinking I was reading for London, but I've read for London. I've already got my passport stamped and all the rest of it. So yeah, I'm reading for Rome. I was reading for Rome. So now I'm going to do some sightseeing. So I'm going to be reading more books that are not on my monthly TBR. So far I am up to 20 books this month with the face-off that we just did, which I talked about in a couple of clips ago. The face-off weekend. I am up to 20. This is my 21st book that I've read for this month. Granted that 12 of them were short novellas, so that's, you know, put that into perspective there for you. But yeah, this one was quite a quick read too. For someone that's looking for, even though it's got 451 pages, I flew through this. I only started it last night and finished it this morning. And so, yeah, so hopefully some of you might pick this up and actually enjoy it. If you're a Jodi Picked fan, you've probably already read this, but if you haven't, I highly recommend that you do. All right, basically my plan from here is to do a little bit more editing, get a reading vlog up, and also, I'm going to be sightseeing for the Amazing Readathon. And what I thought I would do with that, because I've got some chunkster books this month on my TBR, and majority of them are blue, so I'm just going to leave them there and use them for the prompts. I will make them fit somehow. But I thought what I might do is I started a series on the face-off weekend for the Amazing Readathon, and it was the Campers and Criminals series. There's 34 books in that, and I found a majority of them. I think I found the first 10 on Scribd, and they're also on Kindle Unlimited as well. So what I thought I would do for the sightseeing, and they're around 160 to 200 pages, thought I would use them for the sightseeing, because when I read the actual prompt book for the leg that I'm on, I figured I could add those smaller books in, because they usually only end up being a 2.5 hour, maybe 3 hour audio book at the speed that I listen to them at. And so basically I thought I could get a couple of sightseeing books in as well. So now I'm sort of aiming for 30 books by the end of the month. So yeah, so hopefully I'll be able to do that. You can follow that progression over on my Instagram stories. As I finish a book, I am putting up my 2 sheets. Anything for the Amazing Readathon will go on there. So if you haven't yet followed me over on Instagram, go over and follow me on Instagram. And you can see all the books that I am actually reading this month. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to going and doing some sightseeing. But that is, excuse me, that is my wrap-up. I just sculled a coffee, and I probably shouldn't have done that before I got on camera. That is my thoughts on Jodi Picked's The Pact. I am looking forward to the next prompt dropping and seeing what I'm reading. But for now, I'm off to do some sightseeing. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and I'll check in soon. Bye. Hi, everybody, and welcome back. Today, I am here for my final wrap-up for No Angel. This is one of Khrissy's picks. Basically, this is following the Linton family, and basically just going through from pre-Titanic right through to the, I think it was like the mid-20s, 1920s. And it's they're a publishing family, and basically it's just their story. It covers a little bit of infidelity, all of that sort of stuff. It has quite a number of point of views. So we're covering Lady Linton, who is married to Oliver, and she has some children. She's got a set of twins, she's got a young boy, and she's also taken in a young girl called, I want to call her Bertie. I think her name is Bertie, as B-E-R-T-T-Y. Yeah, she took her in from, basically from a poor family. So it basically, as I said, it starts back before the Titanic, when the children are young and they're in the publishing industry, and basically it's just following a family epic story. I don't know really much more how to describe it. It is a trilogy. This is the first book in the Spoils of Time trilogy. I don't really know where it's going to go from here. Maybe it's going to follow Bertie's story, perhaps. I'm not too sure where it's going to go. I haven't looked any further into it. As I said, this was a pick by Khrissy for the month of August. She picked my TBR. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I really could not put this down. Now, as a rule, I don't generally like reading about infidelity or anything like that. And it's not wholly and solely all about infidelity. There is a lot more to this. But there was quite a substantial amount of infidelity towards the centre of the book. And there's 750 pages in this. So there was a little bit more than I would normally like. So that sort of marked it down for me. I have still given this a 4-star rating. I could not put it down. I wanted to know the way that Penny Vicente, I think is how you pronounce her name, has woven the story and kept me intrigued the whole time. The timeline was really good as well. There was the covering, which has been covered in a lot of books that I've read around the First World War, of how the women struggled to hand back the reins and all that sort of stuff. There's a little bit of that in there. The choices that they had to make while the men were away at war and stuff like that. And how basically, what was his name again? I just said it. Oliver. Just said it. Oliver treated his wife when he came back and all that sort of stuff, and there's a little bit of talk about shell shock in this as well around that. The narrow escape that they had as well, and how publishing, you know, like offering more money than they could afford and stuff like that as well. There's a little bit of deceit through this. There's it's just basically a family drama, but there was so much happening in here. Like the main story, the storyline that stood out to me the most was when there was a group of women Lady Celia was involved with, and they went and helped out this less fortunate. So they would go and help them, you know, clean their houses, whatever, like do things, help with the children and stuff like that. Well, when Lady Celia went to her family to help her family out, she realised that the mother wasn't coping and with her youngest daughter, which was Bertie at the time. And I think at the time she had like 5 other children and she wasn't coping. So basically, her mother, Sylvia, and Lady Celia came to an agreement that Bertie would go and live with them until she was better able to deal with the toddler, because Bertie was quite a active child and was causing a little bit of grief, and Sylvia was starting to lose the plot. She was pregnant again, and all that sort of stuff. So Lady Celia actually ended up having a lot to do with Bertie's mum. She still took her around to visit every fortnight and all that sort of stuff. It wasn't as if she took her and then they never seen each other again. Bertie was a part of her family, and all that sort of stuff. And it sort of showed the class difference as well, and how the nannies treated Bertie a little bit different. Like, this was the standout storyline for me. I was quite intrigued by it. And so, yeah, it was quite interesting to see how the nannies who looked after the Linton children treated Bertie different, and how also the Linton children, the twin girls, treated her a little bit different, but at times really gravitated towards her and stuff like that. And she was a prominent part of their family and whatnot. So she got a lot of, and even though she was still part of her original family and went to see them all the time, even they treated her differently as well. So she really had no place. Like, she felt like she had no place in life. And so she was quite an intelligent young lass. She was getting education that she otherwise wouldn't have got, and so her life is going to be substantially different than what it is for her siblings. This family has also helped her older brother as well. Lady Celia's mother ended up helping the older brother when he came back from war for particular reasons and all that sort of stuff. So I'm just looking at the back here, and really, it actually sums it up pretty good. An epic saga of love, secrets, and family conflicts. No Angel is an unforgettable introduction to the Linton dynasty. So obviously the next couple of books are going to continue on with that. But Penny Vicente, she weaves a tale like she just weaves a tale really well that keeps you intrigued. Like, I even think I sent a message to Khrissy about a couple of the books that she recommended. These books, like, there's nothing compelling, like nothing like woof in your face that stands out in these books, or whatever the case may be, but they just want you just keep turning the page because you just need to know how it all is going to play out. So Khrissy, well done. Thank you for picking this book. I've given it a 4-star. I highly recommend it. Anybody that likes a family drama type a book that is set in the early 1900s. Very, very well done. I'm looking forward to reading the next two. When I started the month out, I did not have many series to read, but Khrissy has got me with now a second series. Luckily, this is only a trilogy. The other ones have 7 books in each one of them, but I'm so happy that I read it. I also had this on audio, so it helped me out a little bit with being able to continue reading during the day. All right, so the next one that I'm going to move on to, these are all books that I have not wrapped up yet. I haven't checked in with. I've started them and then just got so engrossed with them that I haven't checked in. This is another Khrissy's pick. This was a gift from Khrissy. This I also used for my bingo prompt the other week, and basically it was to read a book that was gifted to you. So I'm pretty sure that that's what I ended up using it for. Oh no, it wasn't. It was for Cairo. I ended up using it for Cairo, but this was a gift from Khrissy as well. And it has been a group read over in our Discord. So the lovely Leandra has been slowly reading it, but she is on a different team. So she wasn't able to, like, she's been trying to read red books and whatnot. Whereas I'm on the blue team, and this is a blue cover, and it fit Cairo because it was a dual timeline. So a timeline in the past and in the now. This one was another surprising one. I didn't know what this book was about. As with most books, I try to go into them blind. This one, I have even done a written review on this one as well, which is something that I don't normally do on Goodreads. But I just loved how Lismore managed to weave the stories, show the conflicts, show the trauma in the community, and all that sort of stuff. And it all came through on the page. And so basically we're following the story of two sisters, Mickey and Casey, and they're both on separate paths. Mickey is a police officer and Casey is a drug addict sex worker. And it really shows the side of the conflict from Mickey's point of view, of loyalty to her sister, but then the conflict of being a police officer and what to do and all that sort of stuff. It just follows their storyline. It shows a little bit of how they've ended up where they've ended up, and just the general, how they've become estranged and how they've come back together because her sister has essentially been missing and no one has seen her. And there is a series of women that are turning up dead, and she's so scared that it's going to be her sister. So she set out on a to find her and find out what happened to her and all that sort of stuff. So it's following Mickey's story there, but we're also getting snippets of how they became estranged because they haven't spoken for nearly 5 years. And so, yeah, we're following that story of how Casey had gone down the drug addict path and how their paths separated and how they're going to come back together again. So we're learning a little bit at a time about Casey. The only thing that I would say that I didn't really like about Long Bright River was that we didn't spend enough time learning why. We touched on it, but we didn't really get a good look into Casey's life and how she ended up where she ended up. We just know that she was already there. It is set in the streets of, I believe, Philadelphia, and there's the opioid epidemic and all that sort of stuff is really highlighted in this as well, and how many women and also men that have lost their lives to that epidemic and whatnot. So basically, that's all I can really say about this, because if I talk a little bit more about it, I'm going to end up giving away a lot of the major plot points and stuff in the book. And I don't want to do spoilers on the books or anything like that, because I know several people are actually still reading this. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. Again, this was another 4-star book. The only reason it got knocked down a bit is because I felt that while we learnt a lot about Mickey's character, and I would say predominantly she's the main character in the book, I would have liked to have known more about Casey, because where her story ended up, there was a lot of stuff that just I didn't feel like was covered and could have been covered a little bit more. But that is just more a me thing, wanting to know more about that side of people's choices and all that sort of stuff. It's definitely not an author thing. I think she's done a fabulous job of weaving the two timelines. It wasn't jarring in any way when we were going backwards and forwards. I didn't feel lost in the timelines or anything like that. And I know a lot of people feel like they get a little bit lost with dual timelines and whatnot. I did not feel this at all, and I do say that if I feel lost in a timeline, I will definitely say, you know, like it just wasn't done well, it was too jarring or whatever. This was not. This was done really well. Again, a Khrissy pick that ended up being a group read, which was absolutely fabulous. As I said, 4 stars from me, and I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody else has got to say about it. And Khrissy's even doing this as a reread, and Khrissy doesn't reread very often anyway. So I can't wait to hear what they've all got to say. And I use that for the Amazing Readathon for the Cairo leg, because it ancient Egypt, you know, dual timeline in the past, all that sort of stuff. All right, the next one that I read, which was The Lake House, that is being talked about in a separate video because that is part of a Meet the Author, so I'm not going to talk about that here, but that was for the Beijing leg. And basically I had to read a book that had some sort of script on the cover, and so it had it was in script, so I used it. It was a big book to read, but I managed to get it done. Again, that was also a combination of immersive reading and also audio while I was working, so I was able to get through that. It had 594 pages on it, in it, so it was a bit of a chunkster book, but I got through it, and I will talk about that in another video that is coming out soon. But the next one was for Tokyo, and we had to read a book. And this is for the Amazing Readathon, for those that are wondering, which I've mentioned many times throughout this vlog. Basically, the next leg was the Tokyo leg, and we had to read something that the title had a direction in it. So I found this one here. Now, looking at this book, if I can find the right place, it is actually blue. You can see on the back it is blue. It is definitely 51% blue. When I hold it up on camera, it never looks blue. It looks like a greyish blue, but if I hold it about here, you can sort of see the blue hue in the front cover. There's just so many other colours going in it. This here is called Across the Water. It is by Ingrid Alexander, and unbeknownst to me, this is an Australian author. It's set here in Australia as well, so kudos for me for finding it on my bookshelf and ticking another Aussie author off my list for the goal that I set myself this year. I'm doing really well with reading a lot of Australian authors this year, and Khrissy has been really helping me out with pointing me in the direction of good Aussie authors. So thank you again, Khrissy, for contributing to my reading. So this is a thriller mystery. It is set in a remote Australian backwater town, and Liz Dawson is the main protagonist in this book. Basically, she has come from England to this little town, which I cannot think of what is it called? I don't think Oyster Creek. Yes. Okay, there we go. So basically, she has come to Oyster Creek, and the reason that she's ended up in Oyster Creek is because her husband's father has passed away, left his estate to him, and he's got to sort out the estate. There is a business, there is a house. She is staying at the house, but she is recovering from a traumatic experience that happened to her when she lived in England, and it revolved around domestic violence and a death of a client, and she feels to blame for it because she felt like she didn't listen and didn't pay enough attention, and hence the client died along with the child. So yeah, so she feels like she's to blame, and she's sort of having a bit of a break, so to speak, while she is in Australia and her husband is finalising everything. So she is on medication. She has been taking, you know, to help her sleep, she's been taking sleeping pills and all that sort of stuff. She's in this backwater town. There is not many people around her where she's at, and she is in a house looking across a creek at 3 other houses. We have Zach in one house, we have Dee in another house, and then we have Erica and Samid, I think his name is. I cannot think, Saeed or something like that. I can't remember what his name is. But anyway, He is an ex-police officer and he's married to Erica. And basically she is doing a little bit of voyeurism. She is watching these people and the events unfold and all that sort of stuff. And then basically we already know that Dee has gone missing. So we know that very early on in the book, and then basically Liz is trying to sort out what happened to her and whatnot. And basically we get it from all points of view. There's some little creepy things that happen throughout the book that you think, maybe that's the person that did it and all that sort of stuff. It's a bit hard to talk about this book because all of the intersecting perspectives all have something to say about Dee's disappearance and all that sort of stuff. So it inadvertently will give it away if I talk about it too much. Okay, so we know that we've got many different perspectives, and there's also timestamps in this. So it's giving you what day and what time each perspective is happening. I wouldn't say that this was a 5-star read, not by a long shot. It was still a great read. It was an enjoyable read. I am only going to give it 3.5 stars. Because it's not a phenomenal book by a long shot, but it's still a great book to read. Anybody that likes a thriller, a little bit of voyeurism, a little bit of a missing person, is there a murder, was it this, was it that, and having multiple point of views, I think you will thoroughly enjoy this. It was a bit of a medium pace. I wouldn't say it was fast paced, it was medium pace. And a lot of time you're starting to, as you were going through, you were starting to second guess Liz as well. So there was a little bit of that in there and whatnot. I did not guess, I must say, I did not guess, did not even see what happened in the end. I didn't see it coming. Other people may have. I could have been a little bit distracted at the time because I was worrying about work and whatnot. But I honestly didn't see that the person that was involved being involved. I thought it was someone else completely different. So in that aspect, you know, it's obviously a good book, but it's just your standard whodunit mystery, basically. But thoroughly enjoyed it, and I've ticked off another Australian author. I'd actually probably want to see if she's got, I don't know if she's got any more books. I'll have a look in the front. They usually have a list. I wouldn't mind. She has The New Girl and Across the Water. So she has 2 books. New Girl was her debut. This is her second book. So I wouldn't mind grabbing her. I like her writing style. I like the fact that she's done timestamps and we have multiple points of view. That was all really great. The only thing I probably didn't like was I felt like on some instances with some of the things she sort of skimmed over it. And was she skimming over that because she was afraid that she was going to write? You know, like it felt like she sort of rushed through it a little bit. So yeah. All right. So this one, as I said, I've given 3.5 stars, and I used that for the Tokyo leg. And then today, when I'm filming this, I have just finished Malicious Intent. I started this yesterday after I finished Across the Water. Again, this one is another Khrissy Picked. I have given this a solid 4 stars. This is a medical thriller, crime thriller. I would class this one. It is following the story of physician Dr. Anya Crichton, and she is a freelance pathologist and forensic physician. Okay, so it is revolved around, you know, crime and all that sort of stuff. And she is freelance, so she goes into court. So we have a little bit of courtroom drama. We have her in this particular one. She is trying to solve what happened to a group of women that have basically committed suicide. And so she's trying to find out, and she lands the story because of one of the suicides they believe is a murder. And her brother comes to talk to Anya to encourage her to find out what happened to his sister and all that sort of stuff, whether she died from a sexually transmitted disease or not. But it also touches on things about honor killings in this as well. So if you don't like reading about that, there is a little bit of that in here. It's not graphic in any way. There is actually some explanation. They have an expert come in to talk to Anya to explain honor killings and what their chain of thought is and all that sort of stuff, which was quite interesting. I found that very interesting. as I said, I've given this a solid 4 stars. I did have a sneaking suspicion at about 100 pages before the end of who the person was. And it wasn't until I was 50 pages, maybe even a bit less, maybe about 35 pages towards the end, that it was confirmed for me. And then it was the 35 pages was just a wrap up of everything and moving on. This is the first in a series of 7. I listened to this on audio during sprints and yeah, and got it finished. And so I'm really glad that I got it finished. Now, there are some icky things in this book. Can I say it? No, I don't think I can. Oh, maybe I can, because it is mentioned very early on in the piece. So the victims... No, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to leave it. There's some icky stuff that's happening. Now, you don't actually know all the way through the book if it's actually a serial killer, a serial rapist, or just some freak doing crazy things to women and then, you know, bumping them off. So, like, or leaving them for dead. So there is a lot of second guessing yourself as you're reading along. What is going to happen? Which way is it going? Now, and I will say this is the first book in the series, so there is a lot of setup in this, but I think it was really well done. Like, we're learning about Anya and the doctor, and because it is centered around her, the series is named after her. So basically, yeah, I liked it. I don't normally like a book that has a lot of setup in it. I like a lot more plot to it and stuff like that, but I think this was well done by Catherine Fox. As I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it a solid 4 stars. The only reason that I marked it down a little bit is because I pretty much worked out who it was. And it's, yeah, so basically she ends up just, obviously we're going to keep going through the series and we're going to come across more cases and all that sort of stuff. The one thing that I really did enjoy about this all happened in New South Wales, around Sydney and whatnot. And I grew up around like Homebush Bay, Ryde, the Glebe area, Gladesville and all that. And all these places were mentioned in this book. Most of those places were mentioned in this book. And so it's really good when you're reading a book, because you can visualize the towns that they're talking about. And like even sitting on the motorway and stuff like that, I can picture it in my head. Like, I haven't lived in Sydney for a very long time, but I have gone back on numerous occasions to visit friends. Like, my best friend lives in southern Sydney. Even Barrel got a mention, where I used to live down in the Southern Highlands. So it was a really good book to be reading and just having that reminiscing of all the places that I've hung out and lived and where my friends lived and stuff like that. So that was quite an enjoyable thing while I was reading this book. So at this point, I still have one more book to read, which is Hades by Candice Fox, who is, I believe, another Australian author, and apparently her books are quite brutal as well. It's a crime thriller. So I have that, so I will be starting, that will be my next book. But right now, where I'm sitting, which is the 28th of August, we still have 3 days left of the Amazing Readathon. If we go from the Northern Hemisphere, I actually have like 3.5 days left of the Amazing Readathon. So I'm sort of expecting a prompt to drop. So I'm a little bit reluctant to start the last book on the TBR from Khrissy Picked and waiting to see what the prompt is going to be. But I guess we will find out as soon as we know, because I will be vlogging it. All right, I am going to head off and patiently wait for the next prompt to drop, which will be the last leg of the Amazing Readathon. I've read some amazing books this month, and as it sits right now, I have read a total of 28 books. So I still may have 1 or 2 that are going to get snuck in for the rest of the Amazing Readathon, and yeah, so hopefully I might get to 30 books. Who knows? Hi everybody, I am checking in. As I said, I didn't know what the next books I was going to be reading, excuse me, but the prompt has dropped for the Amazing Readathon, and it is, the last leg is to Sydney. And basically we have to read, the prompt is to read a book that is a genre blend. So fantasy romance, sci-fi romance, you get the drill, right? Okay, so it might be sci-fi horror, sort of that sort of thing. So I thought I was going to have to go and buy a book, but but I don't have to. So we can do historical romance fantasy as well. So anyway, Brie has done a fabulous job of putting this together, and this one has, I've just been reading the chat and all the rest of it, and this one has tripped people up, but luckily for me, I went looking, I believe the list that I found was on Book Riot, is where I went and found my resources, and there was a couple of lists there for different genre blends. And I just put into Google books that have genres that blend. So anyway, I thought for sure I was not going to have to I won't find anything on my shelf, and that I'd have to purchase something and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, I ended up finding a book on my shelf. And it's not a big book, but I think that it's going to work really well. It is, let me just bring it up. I've just got it here. So basically, there was a quick blurb when I went and had a look on Goodreads. So the one that I'm talking about is the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. I've had this on my shelf for a while. And the description is, a prim and proper a lady thief must save her aunt from a crazed pirate and his dangerous, charming henchmen in this fantastical historical romance. So it is a blend. I actually have a 35-65 blend in this one because we have historical fiction, we have romance, and we have the fantastical element. I've just learned that this is actually a Kiwi author as well from the chat. Monica was letting me know that it was a fun book, and she really enjoyed it when she read it, so I'm pretty happy that I've got this. But the best part is I actually have, and it's in blue, so it's in the same colours, and also I have book 2 and I have book 3. So I'm going to use this one for the main prompt and finish the leg, and then if I've got time, I'm going to pick up book 2 and book 3 as my sightseeing, and so I'm going to do them all as meet the author as well, because the simple fact is I've never read anything from this author as well. So I'm going to read this entire series back to back like I did with the Vine Witch and see if this author is for me. And I believe there is actually another book in this one, maybe, I'm not too sure, but I will let you know in these books will have their own vlog in the end. So yeah, so you won't see any more of these. Basically we are on the last leg, but I will check in once we've finished the Amazing Race. I will have the stats for the month and everything as well, because it's because remember, this is a blended vlog. This is buddy reads, group reads, Khrissy's Picked, and also the Amazing Readathon, and I've vlogged the whole month, pretty much vlogged the whole month. I think I've got one more book that I've got to talk about that I haven't talked about yet. So basically, yeah, I'm pretty happy that I'm going to be ending on this. Apparently it's a very fun time, and I will check in and let you know how I felt about them and all the rest of it. But you will see more about those 3 books when I do the next reading vlog. All right, have a great day, everybody. Once we've finished the Amazing Race and I have finished reading for the month of August, I will do a check-in, as I said, and have all the stats and everything at the end of this vlog. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next clip. Bye. Well, hi, everybody, and welcome back. I am here to talk about Big Little Lies by Leanne Moriarty. This one is for the Grease leg, I believe this was for, Santorini, I think it was for, and the prompt was to read a book with a coastal setting. I was away at the time of this prompt dropping for the Amazing Readathon, and the only physical book that I took with me, apart from my Kindle, was this one here. And the reason I picked it is because it had a moon on it, it had some water on it, it was blue. I thought, you know, it had all the things that I thought that may or may not drop in the next one. It was totally a shot in the dark, but luckily my shot hit the target. So anyway, the prompt dropped, and I was so excited. I'm like, nailed it. So this is set at Pirawee, I think it is. Pirawee Public's annual school trivia night. So that is where the plot is taking place. There was some event that happened, and basically there are some people asking some questions of all of the school mums and dads and whatnot. So for me, this was a bit of a fun read. Like, I was never great at being a school mum. I did a lot of background stuff like cooking and all that sort of stuff for the PNC, and raising funds and stuff like that here. But other than that, I wasn't a great school mum, and I admit that freely. I'm too much of an introvert to be that person. But as I was reading, I've always been on the outside watching, and as I was reading this, I was laughing so much because just some of the things that Liam Moriarty dropped into the dialogue and dropped into the about the characters and all that sort of stuff just cracked me up, because I just, like, you could, I guarantee if you read this, you will know some people like this, you know, like the clicky ones, the ones that are on the outers and all that sort of stuff. There is a bit of bullying towards the mothers as well, by way of, it wasn't like physical bullying or anything like that, but it was emotional bullying. Surrounded around the children. One child was getting hurt and the child was blaming another child, and that mum was a single mum, and so they were looking down on her. There was all the things, like all the things that happen. I just don't understand why, like, it happens in real life. I don't understand why women have to tear other women down. Like, aren't we all on the same team? But anyway, that's a rant for another day. But I really enjoyed the banter in this, and how it was structured and all that sort of stuff. So we're basically getting to really know the main players in this book. The names are all escaping me right now, but basically we're getting to know them. We are, like, you were diving into the nitty gritties of their personality and all that sort of stuff. And it was just great. Like, it was just a fun time read. With the banter thrown in there for good measure, there was just, it was, yeah, I found myself laughing quite a bit. Anyway, I've given it 4 stars. I didn't give it quite 5 stars because there were some moments where it just sort of dragged on a little bit. I thought we could have got to the point a little bit quicker. That's more a me thing than anything else. But, you know, like, if you're all like me and you prefer it to just keep moving and move on pretty quickly and not sort of linger in one place, then this will probably grate on your nerves a little bit as well. It's not a prominent theme through the book, it's just every now and again. But yeah, I'm relatively new to Liam Moriarty, and in the first book that I read of hers, which was Apples Never Fall, I found that there were some spots in there that we were just rehashing over stuff that we had gone through in chapters previously, and it was a little bit I felt the same way about that book as well. So maybe it might be just a little bit of a common theme with her, but it is a me thing. That's just me having, you know, 400 browsers open in my head, needing to move on, get on with it. Plus, we were in a readathon, so we were under the pump to read as well. So that sort of exacerbated the situation as well. But overall, it's a great story. There's a lot of great banter in it. And I must say, I did not see how this was going to end. I honestly thought it was someone else that had perished, because we know early on someone's perished. And yeah, and so I thought it was someone else, but it actually wasn't. It was, but anyway. It was a great book. I'm glad I read it, and that is the leg for the Grease one, and that was the final book that I had to talk about, because I had forgotten that I hadn't talked about this book at all. So now the grand question that you would like to know, that is probably playing on everybody's lips, let me just bring up a story graph, so please hold for a moment. Okay, so now I'm guessing that you all want to know what the stats are for the month of August. Oh my goodness. So there was one book that I didn't get to, and that was by Candice Fox. This was from Khrissy Picked. Candice Fox, Hades. I do have it on audio, but I just didn't get it to it by the end of the month. The last 2 days of the month, I didn't read anything. I was just so... I was satisfied with what I read, and I was waiting on the physical book to come. It didn't come, and so I've got that on audio now. I've actually cancelled the physical book because they couldn't give me a time frame of when it was going to get delivered or anything like that. So I cancelled that. I've got it on audio. So that was the only book that I didn't read that was on a TBR. But I also didn't do any updating on my classics that I'm reading. So right now I am also reading Middlemarch, Pickwick Papers, Anna Karenina, and The Count of Monte Cristo. I have decided that I am going to DNF temporarily the Anna Karenina one. I'm the only one reading it at the moment, so I'm going to DNF at that. Pickwick Papers I'm going to continue on, and I sort of, I have read Middlemarch, and I was reading along with Maria, but Maria's got extremely busy and hasn't been active on any social media or anything like that. So basically I am just going to just soft DNF that and probably finish that over Christmas or before the end of the year. I'm not going to keep doing the monthly keep up on that one, which I'm a couple of months behind anyway. I definitely didn't read anything in August, and I'm pretty sure I didn't read anything in May either. Sorry, June and July, but I did read some in May. So for the but I'm going to continue on and with the Count of Monte Cristo. So in September, I will have to read a good 200 pages of that to catch up, maybe even 300, because I can't remember whether I did any in July. It's a bit of a blur, and all that sort of stuff. So the stats for the month of August, I read a total of 28 books. I thought it was 29, but 28 books, 12 of which were under 200 pages, between 100 and 200 pages those were for the face-off weekend. So that was 12 for that weekend. I've met all the prompts for the Amazing Readathon, and I also did 2 sightseeing books during that time as well. So that was 12 books for the Amazing Readathon, and then all the rest were so that's 24. And some of the Amazing Readathon books were from Khrissy Picked as well. I was trying to incorporate them in, and so the 2 sightseeing books that I used, which was No Angel and Looking for Alibrandi, they were both off Khrissy Picked as well. So that left another 4 books off her TBR that I had to read, giving me a total of 28. I read a total of 9,106 pages because they were all physical books. Even though I had audio to go along with them, I was still doing immersive reading, so I classified that as actually reading physical books. My 48% of the books were fast-paced, 22% were slow, and 30% were medium. The page number, my largest page number is less than 300 pages, and that was because I read all of the short ones, which was at 48%. I had 15% which were 500 pages plus, and 37% were between 300 and 500 pages. I had 4% of non-fiction, and 96% was fiction, which is not surprising really, because I don't read a lot of non-fiction, although I am trying to rectify that. Okay, so my main genres that I read from, which will be my top 3, that is mystery is the top one, which I read 11 books from. 9 had a romance, and 7 were historical fiction, so that's pretty good. And I also had a biography, literary, a memoir, young adult, LGBTQIA+, middle grade, crime, fantasy, short stories, thrillers, and contemporary. So we had very much a mixed bag of books there. Now, some of you might be wondering how many actually came off my physical shelves. Okay, so off my physical shelf, so physical books that I had here were 13. Then I have a Kindle Unlimited shelf, an audiobook shelf, and a Kindle shelf. Okay, so Kindle are the books that I've purchased. So 13 came off my physical TBR, 6 came off my Kindle Unlimited, 5 off my audiobook shelf, and off my Kindle 3. So that is pretty good. So the majority of them, 13 of them, came off my physical shelf, so I'm pretty happy with that. I had print, digital, and audio, and languages I had all in well, I had one that had Galician in it, so I'm not too sure which book that was, but anyway, now we had I've only rated 24 of the books that I have read. Most of my reads were, let me see, I had 8 3-star, I had 4 3.5, I had 1 at 3.75, I had 8 that were 4-star, and I had 3 that were 5-star reads. And so that was pretty good. And the 5-star reads, let me just bring them up and let's see what they are. I love Storygraph for this. That was The Murder of Mr. Wickham. We also had The Lake House. Oh, Lake House was another one that I read for the Amazing Readathon as well, which I haven't talked about in this video because it's part of the Kate Morton Meet the Author. That was a 5-star read, and I am a basha posh, my life as a woman living as a man in Afghanistan. So they were my 3 5-star books, which is absolutely fabulous to get a month where you get 3 of those. And as I said, I read 9,106 pages in total. So that was my month of August. It has been absolutely epic. It's been absolutely wonderful. It was a fun time read. The chaos reigned. I loved every moment of it. It actually suited me for that month. I was prepared. I pulled all of my blue books off in July. I think I pulled them all off, and I had a big pile there, so I knew I could just go to them. I found all audio books that I could find for them on my library app, Scribd, and seen if I had any on Audible as well. So it has been a fantastic month, a very satisfying month, but I am looking forward to taking it a little bit slower in September. And basically the September plans are I've got a pile of books. I've been pulling books off my shelf that have audio, either on my Audible, through Kindle, or through Scribd. The library, sorry, and Scribd, and I've just been putting them in a pile. I've added the numbers. I had 18 there, and I've added the numbers 1 to 8 to the wheel, and I spin the wheel every time I need to read a book, and that is the book. Starting at the bottom, I'm counting up, so the top of the pile is 18, the bottom of the pile is number 1. And so, yeah, so I'm just counting them. I'm counting them off as I go. So, yeah. I don't know how it's going to go as we keep progressing, but we'll see where we end up, okay? But that is it from me for this epic vlog. I really do appreciate you hanging around, if you've hung around for the video. And yeah, don't forget to hit the like button and also subscribe, and be prepared for next September to have another epic one, especially if we do the Amazing Readathon in August next year. But I think next time I might break it down a little bit and maybe do them as weekly. I did not realise it was going to be this big. But anyway, I do appreciate each and every one of you hanging around to see what my opinions are and what books I read. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.